Hi, welcome back. Today we're going to be painting this watercolor acorn with some fall leaves. It's a beginner-friendly tutorial. I do recommend pausing the video here and tracing out the design in pencil as a guide, very lightly on your page, and when you're finished that, we can get started with the painting. So using a size 8 brush to start, I'm going to begin by mixing a lighter reddish brown and also a darker brown, using a good amount of water in both of these as we'll be covering a larger area. Okay, and then we're going to start by doing a wash over the shape of the acorn, and then we'll just begin with the light brown on the top here. And just wash that over with a good amount of water in the shape of that little acorn hat or whatever the top part is called. And then we'll take the darker brown and begin right underneath, leaving a little bit of a gap in some parts. Since that lighter color is still wet on top, we just don't want them touching too much or they'll run together. But just take that dark brown, leave a little bit of space, and curve along that shape underneath. And then we're going to start washing that same darker brown color over the bottom part of the acorn. You can kind of mix the browns a bit and just use a good amount of water to spread that color out over the whole shape. And once you finish covering this whole shape with that color, we're going to let it dry a bit before we do the next layer because we don't want it to run together. So maybe pause here and just give it a moment until your page is dry, and then we'll do the next step. So once that's dry, we'll take some of that lighter brown color and start painting it around the edge of that top shape, just to give it some definition and darkness on the sides where the acorn curves back a little bit into the shadows. And you can use a bit of water if you just need to blend it out so it's not too harsh of a line. Then we're going to mix more of that darker brown and use that to add some shadows to the bottom shape. I'm going to use it to go around the edges of that bottom shape where the shadows would be. And I'm also going to use it blending a little bit into the middle and also underneath that top part where the kind of the acorn's cap creates a lot of shadow. And you can darken the brown a little bit as well to put more concentrated color on the areas that you think would be really dark. I'm just going to make it a little bit darker here. I think right at the bottom would be a bit more concentrated. And some right on the edges here where it curves further back into the shadows. Just add some definition and make it pop a bit more. And definitely more under that top part where it really creates a bigger shadow where the top of the acorn hangs over. Just going to use some water to blend this out so the lines aren't super harsh. So just kind of a gradual transition from the center to the darker colors on the outside edge. While that dries, I'm going to grab more of this brown and start painting the stem. So just start out with a wash over the whole shape of the stem, and then we'll add a little bit of detail after. just painting in one big stick and two little branches sticking out from either side where the leaves will be. And you can stop before painting into the leaf shape because we'll add those leaf veins after we paint the leaves. And then we'll take a little bit more concentrated brown again, so mix in a little more brown and add some details along the edges, again where the shadows would be, so right on the sides and on the underside of those little branches. Once you're done with that detail, start mixing a yellow color, again with a good amount of water, and we're going to use that to paint out the whole shape of the leaf, and then we'll be adding other colors into it over top. So just cover the whole leaf with that yellow, keeping it pretty light at this stage. And then we're going to start mixing some green to add in a few parts of the leaf. I'm just going to mix some watered down green and drop it close to the branch here, and then also at the very top edge of the leaf, I guess, just over here. And then I'll grab some water and some of that brown and really dilute that and put it at the edge here too, just dropping it in a few parts, and it should really mix together with the yellow because we're using a lot of water there. And you can always add more water as you go. I'm going to mix a little bit of orange as well and drop that in a few places here. There's not really any rules, just wherever it looks right to you. I'm going to make a bit of darker yellow and put that kind of where the lighter yellow is peeking through to make it a bit more concentrated. Blend it a little bit. Whoops. And then I'm going to let that kind of dry and run together while we start on the other leaf. Now wash and dry your brush to get those colors off of there, because we're going to start with that light yellow color again and paint over the shape of the other leaf. And then we'll start mixing some of those other colors in while it's still wet so they can all mix together a bit when it dries. Really using a lot of water for that base as a starting point. Grab a little bit of the green first. A little bit of that orange. Maybe a little bit more green here. And I'll grab a little bit of the brown again as well. Not too much because I don't want to make the leaf color very murky, but just to add a bit more dimension around the edges where the leaves get nice and dry and crunchy in the fall. And once you're done placing your colors where you'd like them, again grab that more concentrated yellow and add that over the parts where that pale yellow is peeking through to really give it a bit more vibrancy. Try to add all of these while it's still wet so they blend really nicely together as they dry. Just going to put a little bit more orange through here to give it some more color. I think that looks pretty good. So we'll leave that to dry. Next, we're going to mix up some more concentrated dark brown and use that to create a line under the top part of the acorn where it would be creating a lot of shadow where it meets the bottom. So we're just going to trace a thin line along that shape. Then use some water with the same color to just thicken that line a bit. Now we'll mix some water with that same color and use it to start adding some dimension and make our acorn look a bit more 3D. So again, using some water mixed in, we'll start adding that at the bottom and around the sides and underneath that top part of the acorn, just anywhere you think there would be a lot of shadows. I'm going to make mine more concentrated at the bottom here. And definitely at this top part. I feel like that's a bit of a heavier shadow there. And then a little bit around the sides as well. And then just use some water to blend that out. So we still have the lightness in the middle and gradually fading to the shadows on the outside edges. Now I'm going to switch to my size 0 brush to do some details. So I'm going to use dark brown with a lot of water in it and just add some details on top of what we've already painted. I'll be painting another line, very thin one on this top cap of the acorn, just leaving a gap and kind of following the shape of the other line we painted. So again, keeping this very thin. Now using the same detail brush, same brown, just add some shadows along the outside edges of the stem and where the branches meet. And next grab some more of that brown, a little bit more watered down, and we're going to paint very light wash over where that lighter color is showing between these two lines. I just want to give the illusion of that shadow. This is like the underside of the cap on the acorn. So very lightly shading that. And once that is done, we're going to add one more thin line above this top line. So again, leaving a gap. And add a thin line above this, just following the shape of the other one we made. So now we have that darkness where the bottom of that cap is, and a little bit of a highlight at the edge to make it look more 3D. Now we're going to start adding some little lines for texture as well. So just a couple little lines reaching down from the top and up from the bottom. I don't want to connect them all the way across because this top part has a lot of texture to it. So just some short broken lines is what we want here. And we'll just do that all the way across. They don't have to be perfect or anything. We'll be doing a wash of color over this when we're done. So don't worry too much about making them very clean. It's supposed to look kind of textured and rough on this part. And once we're done the top part here, we're going to move on to doing the same thing on the bottom of the acorn. I'm going to make these lines longer and kind of straighter looking because I think the bottom of the acorn is a lot smoother than that textured top part. And we're still not connecting them entirely from top to bottom. Some of them are starting from the top, some from the bottom, and they're going almost the whole length of that shape. And we're just going to do this all the way across the bottom. spreading them out in random spots. There's no real rule to this or spacing, just wherever you think they look good. And once you made it all the way across with your lines, we'll start watering down some of our green. I'm also going to add a little bit of brown to mine and really wash out that color, and I'll be using it to paint some very light veins over top of the leaves that we did earlier. So using a lot of water here, very thin line. And then we'll do the same to the other leaf. And I'm going to finish off by adding 4 little lines to this leaf because it's a bit bigger than the other one. And once that's finished, I'm going to switch back to my size 8 brush to do one final wash of brown color over the bottom shapes of our acorn. So just grabbing that light brown and water and washing that over the top part of the cap, and then a bit more of the dark brown and doing the same thing to the bottom after. And this will be the final step, and then our acorn is going to be all finished. So you can see I'm using a lot of water. What we painted under should be pretty dry, so it's not moving too much. It's just adding a final glaze of color over everything that we painted and bringing it all together for the finished product. And I really don't want this to be too dark to overwhelm the lines we painted underneath. So I'm keeping a lot of water in mine. I'm just doing that light wash over everything. And once it's all finished, I'm going to let it dry, and then we have our final completed acorn. Thank you so much for following along with me today. I hope you had fun painting this acorn together. Let me know if you have any ideas for what you'd like to see next time. And if you'd like to follow along for more tutorials in future, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again. Have a great day. Bye!